Let me ask you a question that most people avoid. How old will you be when you run out of money? You'll notice I didn't ask how old you're going to be when you plan to retire. I didn't ask how did your portfolio do last year. No, I asked you how old will you be when your income stops showing up? And if that question makes you uncomfortable, you're not alone. Surveys show that for 50 to 65% of Americans, their number one financial fear is running out of money in retirement. And I spent the last 15 years helping families in the Northern Virginia region mitigate that risk. And what I found is that most people don't actually have a retirement income plan. What they have is they have some investments and they have some hope. So my name is Robert Ferdine, and I am a licensed fiduciary advisor here in Northern Virginia. I've got over 15 years experience helping families and professionals build a retirement plan and helping them with the savings and investing, helping them to build reliable retirement income. This video, quick reminder, this video is purely educational. This is not personal advice. I'm a financial advisor, but this does not reflect your personal situation. This is just general advice. And my goal here is really simple. It's just to help you understand one of the real risks to your retirement, to everyone's in retirement, and make sure that you understand how income planning works at a little bit deeper level. So one of the biggest misunderstandings about retirement is retirement risk, investment risk. And people think that means market crashes and what we call volatility. Volatility is just nothing more than the market's going down and you could lose money. So one of the biggest things that we talk about in my practice is talking about what we call sequence of returns risk. When you are saving for retirement, the sequence of those returns don't matter. If you get 5% one year, 7 the next, lose 3, go up 20, it's the same as going up 20, making 5, then 7, and then losing 3. It's the same dollar amount 4 years later, 5 years later, however you want to look at it. When you're in retirement, it's a very different situation because here's the thing. You're using that money. You're not just socking it away and saving, investing, and doing that sort of thing. You're actually pulling that money back out. That money supports your quality of life, supports your spouse, could support your kids, vacations, travel, all of that. When you lose money in a year, well, that has a huge material impact on your standard of living. So we have to be prepared for that. One of the things that you have to be ready for is just to understand that the order of the returns that come out of your money determines how great your retirement's going to be, how long it lasts. Which this actually leads to kind of one of my other points is that one of the rules that we've talked about, one of the shorthands in the financial planning industry is that you have your retirement assets and you can safely withdraw 4% a year. There's a little more to it than that, but we're going to just say the simplified version of the 4% rule. It even has a name. And it's a good rule of thumb. And it's been shown that in certain environments it does really well. But here's the catch to that. The assumptions that underlay the 4% rule was a much bigger difference between how stocks and bonds performed. It's called correlation. So what we found over the last 30 years is that instead of stocks and bonds being like against each other, we found out that bonds are kind of like stocks' little brother. And so if the stocks go up by 10, then the bonds go up by like 6. It's not like the 2 or 3 that we thought they would be, or even go down. The correlation is not as strong. So you need to remember that that's going to affect what you can do with your investments to get the money out. The other thing that we've run into is we have much higher inflation than we expected to have at this point. The other thing that can trip folks up, especially if you don't have a financial professional helping you, is what we call behavioral risk. And what that means is that you see your portfolio go down, and it drops, and you sell. That's actually the wrong answer. And going back to my own personal experience, years ago, a friend of mine was very proud of himself because he got out of all of his investments and went 100% into cash. And as the market had dropped about 25%, and it kept going down, about 45% when all was said and done. And he's very proud of that. I worked at that company, I want to say 6 more years. he still had not invested in the market. And in the interim, the indexes that he would have been investing in had recovered to their previous high. They'd recovered all of their losses and were actually moving back up again. And there he was sitting with a locked in 30% return. As you can imagine, he wasn't real happy about that. So you have to be concerned. You have to make sure that you are making the right decision. Make sure that you are not the one who is, affecting your portfolio. Another thing I want to talk about today is not just the risks, but when you get to retirement, well, now what do you do? Because here's the thing, the game changes in retirement. And that's one of the key points to what we're talking about today. When you're investing in growing your nest egg, the rules are a little bit different because time is on your side. The markets tend to go up. Stock market tends to get higher. And if you look at all the charts, they start down here and they go all the way up. That is how things historically have worked. We don't know if they're always going to do that. I can't imagine a scenario where they don't, but just to be thorough. But the catch is that you can look at them on the big picture, but that doesn't mean you can put your monthly expenses at the whim of the market. We all know that. We've all been told, hey, make sure you have 3 months expenses in your savings account. Make sure you have enough money in the next step up, like a bond fund or something like that, or a money market fund for your year expenses. You have all these different rules. So that's kind of the idea we're going to talk about now. You need to make sure when you get into retirement that you have some guaranteed income. If you're an American, you're going to have Social Security. Look, I don't know what Social Security is going to look like in 5 years, 10 years, 20, or 30, but I will tell you that it's going to be there. There will be money coming from Social Security. You're paying into it. You are going to get money back. Some of you are going to have pensions. If you work for the federal government or state government, school systems, this sort of thing. Those are awesome. Those are sources of income that no matter what, you cannot outlive. The next thing you want to look at is you need to make sure that there are tiers of income that you can set up, that you, for lack of a better term, you turn on when you need them. So depending on how many grandkids you have or what the travel looks like that year, maybe cost of living has gone up that you need to increase your income by another $500 or $1,000. You turn that income on. This is a really important thing to remember because what you're doing, you're not looking at the returns. You're transferring the risk from you and your family to a financial institution. And I'm going to be really candid with you. If you're watching this, the financial institutions can handle that risk way more effectively than you or I can. That's just a fact. They're a lot bigger than us. They have a lot more knowledge, they have more assets, all these kind of things that they can work on. And then the last thing you want to do is, look, you can't leave the market. This is another point that people forget. And that is your retirement is going to last a really long time. Medicine is amazing. And human beings are living a lot longer than they used to. So you're in your retirement where your parents might have been retired for 20, 25 years. Your retirement's probably going to last 40, maybe 50, which is amazing and awesome. But you also need to make sure that it is something that, that you've got your medical expenses and all that kind of thing taken care of. And that's why you can't leave the market. You need to have money that is making those market returns, but you can't depend on it because some years it goes down. So one of the things that people don't really understand about their retirement is the role that insurance plays. At its core, insurance is about transferring risk from you and your family to a larger institution, financial institution. It's not about beating the market. Does that happen? Well, occasionally, but that's not actually its job. Its entire purpose, the reason it exists, is to transfer risks that markets are not designed to handle. These are things like longevity risk. If you live longer than you expect or anybody else expects, that's something that insurance handles because markets can't deal with that. Sequence of return risk. That is a huge risk in the market because when you are taking money out of your investments the year after they went up 50%, that's a very different experience than you taking money out of your investments the year after they went down 50%. There's also some behavioral risks. They helps you offset some of the mistakes that we make and when we get panicky and scared in the market. And then, of course, it also helps manage some of your tax risk. These are the things that insurance is a good tool for. And when you use these strategies correctly, they actually help to smooth out and give you more income in retirement than without. So look, the stuff I've talked about today, this is not for everybody. This is for professionals, especially people who've saved diligently, who are nearing retirement, and they want certainty. They don't want to guess. They don't want to say, well, maybe it works out, and hey, if nothing bad happens, we're going to be great. Because that's the plan that most of us have. What you really want to know is, look, how long is my income going to last? How can I plan out my retirement to really enjoy the life that I've earned over all these years of working? So if this video raised questions, I would say that's good. You are more than welcome to reach out to me and have a conversation about retirement income planning. It won't be about products because I don't know that you need a product, to be totally honest with you. You could be fine. You could be in a great spot, and I will let you know that. There could be a couple of tweaks, and you don't need me for that. I will let you know that. There could be some things that will make it better, and maybe it makes sense, maybe it doesn't. I will give you the facts, lay out the positives and the negatives, and you can decide. The whole point is a very low-risk conversation. You're going to learn something, I hope. That's my plan. My plan is that you learn something, and if there's something I can help you with, that's great. Because here's what I want you to keep in mind. Your retirement, your successful retirement, is not really based on how much you saved. It's actually based on whether your income is going to be there when you need it. So thank you for watching. If you found this useful, please like and subscribe. Share it with your friends. And of course, please, if you have questions, comments, leave something in the chat there so I can see it, and I'll be happy to respond. My name is Robert Ferdine. I'm with Ferdine Financial, and thanks for watching.